If you wanted to watch Major League Baseball tonight, set your DVRs. We're talking about a far more important challenge, the height of competitive action. We brought in Awesemo. We got Brick 75 here. Brian, let the people know what's going on. What are we doing here tonight? Why did we bring Awesemo onto the show?
EM2 challenge. I'm not sure what he's calling it, but the Empire Maker. Actually, I can't think of his real name. I know he has one.
It's Blake. I want to say.
He issued a challenge out on Twitter that he'll play anyone in any game for any amount in DFS at -120 odds. And at first he was kind of getting crickets, but three people that I know of have picked them up on it. The first I think was A.E. Jones. So A.E. Jones, a former poker pro. I know him very little. He talked on Skype years back in the poker days. He used to be like a Chicago guy. And I think they ended up playing for $100K a week at -110 till the NFL playoffs, I believe. The second one was Rufus Peabody, the professional sports bettor, and I just actually DM'd him, and he told me I could say I think they're coming. Sounds like they're going to come to some sort of agreement at the same -110 for EM2 in golf, and so that will be interesting. Hopefully they make that public because I might want to take Rufus on that one. We'll see where that goes. And then thirdly, our buddy Alex Baker took him up on kind of like a revised version of his initial offer, maybe. And so, Alex, do you want to talk about like what happened here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Empire Maker was talking about how he's the best in the world on Twitter, and I maybe had a few too many drinks, and I was like, hold on just a second here. But yeah, I mean, he's a fine player. He mostly plays cash. I don't play as much cash because I feel like so much of it is about just micromanaging like who you're playing and not as much about the strategy, because pretty much anyone can get my cash lineup by subscribing to my site. So that was exciting to me. But I called him out because he always has the same lineup as other guys in the Thunderdome. So I was like, maybe that's where we should take the bet, because I did kind of I came at him on the Thunderdome, and that's the highest stakes DFS tournament that regularly runs. I'm like, I don't know if I want to play this guy for a few $100,000 heads up. But maybe a Thunderdome challenge would be fun.
That's what I loved about it, because it's a head-to-head GPP. That's what the people want to see. No one wants to watch head-to-head cash, and you guys are playing a 1v1. That's boring as shit. We want to see you guys compete in a tournament. So I'm glad that you guys settled on this. What were the negotiation talks like?
Yeah, so we were just talking shit on Twitter, and then I DM'd him, and we started to really like formulate the terms, and I was trying to think of all these possible things that could go wrong. Like, what if the tournament's full and one of us doesn't enter? What if it's a multi-entry tournament, not a single entry? And of course, one of the things we wanted to end with a bang, so I'm thinking we got to have it end on the biggest Thunderdome, which I think would be the Masters. So I think that those were my thoughts to make a really exciting challenge. It's something that, I mean, there's a lot of money at stake, but this is almost as much for the competitive spirit as it is trying to make some money.
So let people know the exact terms. I believe I saw you guys are going to do 10 Thunderdome contests. The winner at the end will receive an extra $50,000. How is that going to be divvied up across those three sports, MMA, PGA, and NFL?
I think for the start, we'll at least play each one. So, I mean, there's one in PGA every week, one in MMA usually, and one in NFL, but only guaranteed prize pool ones that we're playing. So that'll be the start. Of course, we can make changes if we both agree on them. So we haven't really nailed down exactly what tournaments we're going to enter, but I kind of like the idea of it ending with a bang. So I'm going to push for the Masters to be the last one.
Did you enter tomorrow golf
Yes,
Thunderdome?
I did.
Yeah, I think he's in it too. So I guess that's the first one.
That's the first one. We got one on UFC on Saturday. Hopefully he sleeps in. And then Sunday NFL. I mean, we got a lot of tournaments going on.
Are you going to start doing tweets like EM2 to open up the economy so we can get him to the clubs and then making suboptimal decisions with his lineups?
I don't think he needs any help on that one.
I think if that the Thunderdome on Saturday is a 10-man.
The Thundermaker is the Australian strip show that you go to on Saturday nights in Chicago, Brian.
What do you EM2 with the insults, the homosexual innuendo insults here? Anyways, it's the 10-man MMA, and I think for you, like if it was like 20 or 25, I think that would be a pretty big edge for you because you know how to avoid dupes, and I doubt he does.
Thanks, yeah.
What other have you really thought this through about like where you're going to get your edges from, or do you not want to talk about it?
It definitely depends a lot on the tournament structure. So some of them are differently structured. Like they'll even run 8-man tournaments that like the payouts will change like depending on week to week, and that changes like the risk reward of tournament, like how much is first, how much is second, etc.
So just so people understand, I mentioned that the winner at the end gets the extra 50,000 outside of the contest winnings. Is it just net profit within the Thunderdome across those 10 contests?
Yeah, hopefully profit, but just total winnings, same thing. But whoever comes away with more money in these 10 tournaments, and hopefully we cash at least some of them, so there will be profit. But I think, yeah.
Well, and I think I'm curious, obviously, both of your thoughts, but like the way EM2 plays, just jamming the optimal, he's going to have a high floor. And whereas you, I think, have a mind for playing for first, I feel like this is what makes this challenge so interesting as far as him just trying to have that floor week in and week out versus you trying, because if you get one, like normally isn't first place normally like 40,000? In the Thunderdome. So is that going to be your strategy to try to get a couple of these first place and just run away with it? Or are you going to try to play the EM2 optimal game?
Well, I think half the money we're putting in is in these actual tournament buy-ins. So I'm going to start off just trying to maximize my chance of making a profit, just playing it straight up. As the tournament progresses, maybe if I get a lead, I'll have to start being more optimal just so he has less outs. But we'll see how it all shakes out.
Brian, how would you approach a head-to-head GPP contest like this?
Well, yeah, I would try to get the biggest amount of entries in each one. So, like, if you could push this, is this the Justin Gaethje one? This weekend It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's still only 10. Okay, yeah. Like, if you could get like the biggest one possible, that would give you the biggest amount of edge, I would think. Because here's a line I want to hear. Someone quote me. What are the odds that EM2 will have a different lineup in his cash game and his Thunderdome with Alex? Right? So I would put it like minus 10,000 is going to be the same. It's going to be the exact same fucking lineup.
Well, that's his MO, right? He jams the same lineup across all contests. I mean, even the 1 week I do the Tilt Space show, Leone Holka and we played the Thunderdome 2 weeks ago, and his lineup was duped with Third and Schlong in a 25-person contest.
Yeah, I mean, even like when I called him out on duping a lot, he was like, I still have been making more money than you. So I think he really like owns that. He's playing like what he thinks are the best players.
So okay, what do you guys, Peter, you can go first, or Alex, you can go first. Like so I think this started with he had that kind of like Portland rant, right? And all those tweets, and people were going at him. And I don't know someone said something about him being a trust fund baby, right? And so there's two insults that it seemed to get under his nerve, which is the trust fund baby one, and that Third and Schlong, he just feeds him all his lines, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any validity to that? What do you guys think? Go ahead, whoever wants to go.
Well, I've had the good fortune of meeting Blake at a tournament. Yeah, and it was really interesting because when I met him, like the whole night, I didn't know this was Empire Maker. Like, which is really surprising because on Twitter he's like calling everyone peasants, like talking all this shit.
Yeah,
calling everyone dusty. And in fact, he almost got in a fight with this other guy we went out with at this final junkyard. And the reason why is apparently Blake had been bragging about how much money he made in Bitcoin on the walkover. And Brian, he's like this attorney, and he's worked hard to like be pretty successful. And Blake like is bragging about how he got there like super easy, I guess. And this was in Denver, so apparently alcohol has more effect in Denver. So because of the elevation, at some point, Blake calls this guy a junkyard Brian Dusty. And he's like, Dusty, like he got like really pissed off that this guy called him Dusty. And he like started like pushing him. And we were at this pizza joint. So we all got kicked out of the pizza joint. And fortunately, it didn't progress beyond that. But it was quite the first impression.
Wait, who called whom Dusty?
Blake, he called the junkyard Dusty.
Okay. Who would have won that fight?
Junkyard is pretty he's pretty big, so I mean Blake is just like, I mean he's an average size, maybe a little bit bigger than average, so maybe he'd be at a disadvantage, but I don't know. I mean he's got that heart of a lion. So
Awesemo, I saw someone, they had retweeted the show and they said Awesemo's already on the campaign trail. And so, we're trying to work on your PR here. We've seen, Trump has had a lot of success coining these nicknames. We have Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe. What do you think about this one I just thought of? EM Dupe. EM Dupe here as the campaign trail for Awesemo to rage against the Optimal Bro.
I like it, man, because Dupe too, like that is such a great. That's amazing.
There we go. There you guys. If you want to enter into the fray, EM Dupe is going against Awesemo in the heads up challenge here. So it will accumulate or culminate, dare I say, in the Masters Thunderdome.
That's what I'm planning. We'll see how the timing works out. But the Masters, it may also like. I mean, that starts before others we might play too, because it runs 4 days.
How about the Empire Inheritor?
Oh man, that's good.
Are you going to be doing any content yourself around the challenge? Are you going to be sharing links to the live Thunderdome? Like, how much are you interested in publicizing this versus just winning it on the side? Like, I'm curious on that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is all about the challenge and the fun and like the engagement people have been giving on these posts has been really, really high. So I'm like, there's a lot of interest in kind of seeing how this shakes out. Hopefully I'll be posting positive vibes as I run away with it. But I think I'll be posting nonetheless.
Did you ever think that you could?
Awesemo.
What's that?
Yeah, post updates like the cash flow or whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll have a leaderboard and stuff.
Yeah.
No, I was just thinking you talking about engagement. It was like you could spend $100,000 worth of engagement with this heads up challenge with EM Dupe, or you could just post Katie Bell photos and say, what am I thinking of right now? What's worse than heartbreak? But I like the angle you've took here.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you if I lose this challenge, that'll definitely be worse than a heartbreak.
So you didn't really answer the question though. And Peter didn't even comment on it either. Don't think I didn't notice. So do you think that Empire Maker is just like an awesome DFS player on his own, not a rich kid, and doesn't get help from anyone else?
Well, I think, he's solid. Like, the thing is, with the head-to-head, it's funny that he's offering people minus 110 because that's, like, the odds you get when you just enter a random head-to-head, right, because of the rake. So it's like he thinks he's good enough to beat me in that. Like, I just don't really care enough. or I don't want to be like waging a Kanya versus Sahil Sid war where one person loses $1 million because I really wouldn't want to be on the bad side of some luck there. And like with head-to-heads, it's like almost close to 50-50 regardless.
Okay.
That's why I was pushing for the Thunderdomes. But to answer the question, I think there is a group of people in DFS that are able to take like their wealth and play a lot more because of that starting point they have compared to someone who's like worked their way up from the ground up. And I think Empire Maker, I mean, he made it clear he made all this money in Bitcoin, so it's easy to lump him in that group. But whether he has the skills to back it up, we're going to see.
There are some eerie similarities with that. I've also was once told Dan Bilzerian made all of his money playing poker.
Well, yeah, I mean, Empire Maker, that could be another angle is the Dan Bilzerian of DFS.
There we go.
He was good at poker though back in the day. It's got to be the same Empire Maker.
Yeah,
he I think he like 2550 was his main game, no limit. And
someone just told me he was featured in this book $2 Howler. Hold on, let me find the name of this.
Like the Shibahalla.
Shibahalla Ballas.
Shibahalla.
Yeah, if I'd known he was part of this crew, maybe I wouldn't have signed up for this challenge.
Yeah, the Shibahalla Ballers. Oh my god, that's back in the 2+2 forum days. I haven't been to that site in like a decade, honestly.
So
yeah, go ahead.
So Alex, are you going to be changing your? I mean, first of all, are you regularly in all of these Thunderdome contests, or do you pick your spots?
I've been picking my spots just because, like, my bankroll strategy. Like, I'm trying to balance risk reward, and usually in these contests, like, you're risking a lot, and the ROI potential isn't huge. I'd rather play $5,000 of entries into like a $10 or something like that. Of course, it depends on the volume of the sport. So MMA, like, you can't really play that much. NFL, like, I usually don't play the Thunderdome because there's like so many other ways to invest your money.
Was it hard to convince him to do MMA? I want to say people were having a meltdown on Saturday night based on the scoring, and didn't he threaten to take DraftKings to court based on Fight Tracker scoring? So how did you convince him that this was a level playing field for MMA?
Well, he doesn't know about my Fight Metric connections, so I'm glad he didn't call me on that.
There you go. So you got the inside scoop with Fight Metric. You know how they call these.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it takes to win at MMA DFS these days, and I think like, if you don't know someone at Fight Metric, you're doing it wrong.
There you go. Brian, any other questions? How would you approach this if you were playing it?
Well, Alex, I think Alex has got to go. Alex,
what are you
thinking here, buddy?
Yeah, I got time for one more segment here.
Make it good, Brian. Make it good.
This isn't gonna be good because I'm talking about the same fucking thing. If he has like a group that he works with or something like that, if I was you, I'd say, and you can't work with any of your buddies, and if it's proven, you owe me X money just to tilt them.
That's a good point. Yeah,
you'll never be able to prove it.
But to me, that's like, even if he's working with a group, he's working, like, Alex isn't playing him across 100 cash game slates, right? Like, he's jamming the optimal every slate. Like, that's just his style. I think how Alex set up this contest and playing it in a tournament format is going to really play to his strengths. I guess, Alex, the question would be, do you think a 10 slate sample size is too small to realize your edge?
Well, since we put even money, I wasn't really worried about like how big of a favorite I would be, or what the chance is. So I mean, like, he offered me plus 120 in a head-to-head, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not gonna take odds and like pretend like you're the best player in the world, But I'm glad that we came to a contest where we're both playing at the same stakes, because that's how I feel DFS should be played.
So is this, because I feel like when EM2, EM Dupe says he's the best player in the world, he's talking about cash games, right? And when you say you're the best player in the world, you're talking about tournaments. And is this challenge kind of like trying to meld that together and say like the best overall player in the world? Is that what this contest is a referendum on?
I guess it is. Yeah. I mean, I don't worry too much about being the best player. I just try to win money. Honestly,
and you should have taken the plus 110.
That's true. I've been on a little bit of a cold streak, so I'm like, maybe this can reverse my fortunes having a high stakes matchup with EM2. So, yeah, I think this will be really interesting because he kind of plays these tournaments like a cash game, and it's a small enough field that that's not a huge mistake. But I feel like I can really exploit that to get an advantage.
How can you consider yourself the best player in the world if you don't think you're the best GPP player, too? Right? Like, I don't understand. He should specify cash game.
That doesn't have quite the braggadocio. I'm the best cash game player in the world, motherfuckers. All right, Alex, we appreciate you coming on, giving us the very first statement on the challenge. We will be watching closely. Maybe we can sync back up with you down the road after the challenge progresses.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
we'll see you, Alex.
All right. Later. And by the way, Empire EM Dupe, he said that he's offering odds if you want to bet on me.
Okay. All right. I'd like to get some action down on Awesemo.
All right. Later, guys.
See you, buddy. All right.
There it is. There it is.
He's offering 105, I think, on Alex.
On side action?
Yeah, Vig free 5 points. Who do you think has the edge there? So I looked like tomorrow is like 20 or 25 man. Saturday's a 10 man, and I didn't look at any of them after that.
Yeah. I mean, my only one point of reference is the 1 week I played the Thunderdome in NFL, and it was a 25 man there. So I have no frame of reference for the MMA and PGA slates.
Well, yeah, I know. It's more of just a theoretical question though anyway.
Yeah.
So because if cash games just translate over to GPPs, then, he should win everything, and the cash game players should be just as good at GPPs, and they're not. I would say, some of them are. Some guys can do everything, but
yeah. And again, like I said, I have very little frame of reference. But the week we played in NFL, I mean, I want to say 80% of the lineups were near optimals, maybe one pivot. Like we were one of the few teams that did like a game stack in the Thunderdome. And yeah, I know Leone is continuing to play the Thunderdome. He thinks there's an edge there. I'm in no room to talk, but I definitely see the edge there for someone who wants to approach it more like a GPP than a cash game, which it seems like the majority of people there are guys that jam the optimal. They're trying to get as much action down as possible. They see the field size there and they say, I just jam the optimal. It just doesn't seem like they're actually giving that much consideration to tournament strategy within that field.
And that's exactly what I think's happening. They're I don't think they're jamming the optimal. You keep saying that. Like I think all these guys make their own projections.
I think you're wrong. I don't think EM2 makes his own projection.
Okay, go ahead. Why don't you talk about what you think about EM2?
No, I just don't think that all of these guys are. I think you, in the same way, like we collectively are in a Twitter bubble, I think you are in a bubble of like how many of these guys model. I think you are in like the 0.1% of the 1% of people who model.
I don't think so.
I think people might have their own special sauce, their own stuff that they tweak, their own process, but I don't think every single person in the Thunderdome makes their own projections.
The only two guys I know well is Alex and Steve Buzzard, who's now with Awesemo too, and they make their own projections. Obviously, Alex does. I know for sure Steve does too, and I do. I saw Petty Theft is in the YouTube chat. He does too, right? If you're still here, do you want to answer that? I think he does too, and he's like next on the list. I think in the EM Dupe challenge too. So I don't know.
If Petty Theft wants to hop on right now, DM Brian or I. We'll send you a link. We can talk it through. If you want to hop on the show.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think he is working with someone else? Okay. Well, then where do they come up with their projections then? You think
Travis just said in the chat, it depends on the sport.
Okay. Well, all right. Football. PGA. So where do you think EM2 gets his,
I really hope it's from Awesemo.
I was gonna say, and then Alex could like just delay his projections like right before lock or something. It screws over his subscribers just for this bit.
Everyone in the chat wants Petty to come on. Let me. I think Petty followed me for a little bit after one of our shows and then unfollowed me. But I'll see if I can send it.
Unless he unfollowed me. He unfollowed both of us.
He was here. I do have access to. I'm sending Petty the DM link. No pressure. If he wants to hop on, he can hop on with us. Yeah. What were we saying? Yeah. I don't know. I think you. I just don't think that many people are modeling.
You think EM2 is fucking using RG's projections?
I think he's probably fucking aggregating across a bunch.
No, I don't think so.
I would bet so much money that he's not making his own projections.
But he definitely doesn't. So it's like Twitter personality and his interview personality are clearly different because he did that Brandon Adams interview and he does not seem like the dude on Twitter. But the internet personality does not seem like a guy coming up with his own projections. But the Brandon Adams interview kind of seemed like a dude who could. Do you think he like RBX 88's it, but cash style? Like he just knows the sports so well that he takes, oh, what's everyone looking at here? Oh, this sucks. This is dumb. This is good. This is dumb. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah.
100%. I agree. Yeah. I think he's a dollar, a heightened version of RBX 88's process.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, think about it. Think about like what would be the edge if you were exclusive? Like, honestly, like if we were to play cash over and like I were to just use Awesemo's projections and you were to use your own projections, like, or just you versus any other good set of projections, like what would be the edge you would have in a cash head-to-head challenge across 100 slates of different sports?
I don't know. If mine were better, I would have a couple point edge at least.
Yeah.
And that would add up. But it depends on, it depends on the sport too. Petty said he's going to join us here in a minute. So, I mean, I don't want to call you out, but we did say privately before.
You can call me out, say whatever you want.
You did say privately before. You didn't think he was even making his own lineups.
No, I honestly don't think I said that.
You don't remember that? You don't think he what?
I never said that. I think he definitely, I think EM2 has an incredible feel for DFS. I think his like gut instincts are great. We got Petty Theft here.
What's up, guys?
Hey man, how you doing?
I don't think
Travis,
I spoke to you, Brian. Peter, last time I spoke to you, it got kind of weird.
I think it did. You had hopped on. Remind me what that was. It was a Roto Grinders poker stream, and you had gotten booted from the CPC, the Corona Poker Club. Wasn't that it?
Yeah, it was a weird situation with Kirk. I didn't realize you guys were live on a stream. I thought it was a private thing. It was not.
Oh my god. I hadn't known you at all. Like I'm not in Corona Poker Club. I do none of that. But yeah, I do remember I was kind of just as I normally do, stoking the flames of beefs there. But thank you for hopping on. So where are you at with this challenge? I know you were in EM Dupes mentions trying to get him to sack up with you.
Well, the problem is every time I try to play him, he just goes higher and higher amounts. And I can't afford the same amounts that he can afford, unfortunately. So it may happen, but if it is, it's not going to be all my money.
Yeah.
That's interesting that he'll take Alex for less money, but not you.
So their bet's a little different, to be fair. It's a Thunderdome bet instead of a head-to-head bet.
Yeah, but he's willing to take action.
Yeah, I mean, he said a lot of things, right? He's initially he could beat anybody, and then he couldn't beat anybody, and then here we are. He's got what, 3 or 4 bets? I think he said.
I got 3 that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, he's played people offline a lot. I think I used to play him offline head-to-head, but I don't know of at least a couple more who've played him offline as well. So this is not new for him.
Yeah. And so what kind of deal were you trying to get done that fell through?
I told him I'd do half, which is 50 for 50, 60, which would be plus 120. And he keeps telling me, don't keep trying to lower it. It's going to be 100 or we're not going to play. So.
Yeah, and isn't that like it? What was that? I read a poker book back in the day, right, where there was like the Texas oil tycoon that wanted to come through and play Lederer and Annie Duke at like just multi-million-dollar nosebleed stakes, with the thesis being they'll make suboptimal decisions at stakes outside of their comfort zone. It seems like that's what he's trying to do to you.
But the thing is, like, it's cash. How bad can you really do in a cash lineup, right? It's not a poker table. Poker table, I'd be scared shitless playing for 100K or whatever. I used to play poker professionally, and I was never, ever close to that. But for a cash lineup, like, you throw your cash lineup in, you watch the games, you win or lose. It's not really that. There's no emotional intimidation by it.
Yeah.
So what, in your guys' opinion, you guys are both high-stakes DFS players, what would be, like, the platonic ideal of a DFS challenge to determine once and for all who is the best player? Like, what kind of sample size, what kind of cross-sport contest would actually determine it? Because we're already talking about this 10-game slate with Awesemo being too small to actually determine anything.
Most money won over 10 years or something.
It's not a bad idea.
Like,
honestly,
you could be good one year and not that great the next year in the same sport.
We've seen that a lot of times.
Yeah, and maybe they caught up to you. Like PGA this year is really weird, in my opinion. And I was like I said, I was just DMing Rufus Peabody, and he says the same thing post COVID. PGA's been really wonky, and I don't think really anyone knows really more than Rufus about PGA gambling, anyways. So the players change, they get sharper, new tools and projections come out. So like if you could sustain yourself for 2 years, you're really fucking good. That's what I would say. Like that, you're doing something right. And the best player ever would be, over a long period of time, over multiple seasons in multiple sports, I would say. I don't know. Maybe that's debatable.
I mean, there's certain guys who play only certain sports and are just absolute crushes. But another thing is motivation. I know I've had a couple big seasons in certain sports, and the next season I'm not quite as motivated, and I'm just, right away get down a decent chunk and have to claw my way back.
Yeah.
And I think it happens to a lot of guys. They grind really hard when they're moving up the chain. They finally get to the top. They have a couple good seasons, and then they just lose motivation.
So what you're saying,
same thing happens in poker. Same things happens in poker, right?
I was going to say it's the same phenomenon of in pro sports, right? The contract year, you're playing for the contract, then you get the contract, and you kind of loosen up.
I bet sports betting's the same way too. You figure out an edge, you're crushing it. You think you're a genius. The book adjusts. You don't. You're like, why am I losing now? So like, I think it's really apparent in poker, for sure, and especially how quickly the game evolved back, in the mid 2000s to the late 2000s.
So, Travis, Brian is like, can't believe that I think EM2 isn't doing his own modeling. Where are you on that?
I don't think he does either. I really don't.
That's not what I said. Let me clarify. You were saying you think 0.1% of good players or high stakes players make their own projections. I think it's at least like 40 or 50 or 60.
So what does making your own projections entail, though? Exactly. What defines that? From
the bottom up, from a database, coming up with your own projections, and then adjusting them as you will, without the use of Alex's or whatever, Derek Hardy's or whatever. I don't know.
I don't think there's many guys at all that do that. I think you name it on 2 hands, to be honest with you. Of like pretty successful guys, and maybe there's some random guys who play low stakes and do their own stuff. But like for guys who've been around for a little while, I think it's less than 10 guys.
Okay, All right.
I feel pretty strongly about that too, especially for like EM2. I don't think he's doing his own stuff personally.
Yeah, no, I wasn't talking about him. Yeah, I was talking about just making your own stuff. Okay, that's interesting. Well, then we need to shut down Awesemo.com.
Oh, I think we're beyond that. Unfortunately, he kind of crushed us all, right?
Okay. So he doesn't do it now. Do you think he does it like on his own RBX 88 style, like aggregates the projections and then makes his own judgments based on what he thinks going to happen? Or do you think he gets fed lineups, which is the accusation?
Who's RBX 88?
Three-time Billy Maker winner?
Oh, he's the 3-time one? 2 or 3-time winner?
Yeah.
He won a month ago?
Champion. Connoisseur of excellent clocks.
I know who that is actually. What do I think he does? I don't know. I have ideas, but I wouldn't want to say stuff and be incorrect.
Why not? This is what this whole show's about.
just saying stuff. I mean, it's weird that him and Schlung have the same lamp a lot.
Yeah.
And I know both of them in real life a little bit, but like we don't talk about them partnering up together or whatnot. It seems like they're partnered up. I really don't know.
Well, you could be partner up and one guy, and you could both be working on the model or both be working on some aspect of what you're going to put out there.
I will say, if they do partner up and whatnot, it's nice that they play the same events. And there's some guys who everybody knows that don't play the same events intentionally and run the same models. So that's nice, at least.
But in this discussion, it's like it's limited to cash and optimal, right? Where people are discussing, they're trying to get on like the same quote unquote best plays, right? Like that's where this is occurring. Yeah,
I mean, there's only so many ways to build a cash lineup. I used to play cash only like 3-4 years ago, and I made the transition to GBP only, and it's the best thing I've ever did. It's so much more creative and exciting. Cash is boring to me. I mean, cash is basically kind of what Alex was saying. You try to find fish, you wait in the lobby, fish pops up, you join. It's very much like poker, and the whole bum hunting and poker thing really turned me off.
Yep, I mean, I don't know if you heard my idea, Petty, of I think they should do like the Zoom poker model. So like all head-to-heads will be entered into just a random pool, and then you just get randomly matched. So like it wouldn't scare away the fish like the head-to-head lobbies in poker. That just totally killed the game because you just go there and it's, whoever I could get, Phil Geffon, whatever, just name your poker stud at 1,000, 500, 300, 200, 100. And it's like, well, then no one's going to enter these. So you randomly match them up. And then like, if someone wants to enter 150 lineups, well, then they're only going to get matched up at the end with guys who enter 150 lineups. You know what I mean? So you just do like round 1, round 2 matchup, round 3 matchup.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it, but I think it might decrease the heads-up action because, there's guys who will sit in the DFS lobbies at the 1Ks. They'll block everybody they don't want to play. Yeah. And if you're rematching randomly, those guys aren't going to play 1Ks anymore.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't be in lieu of. It would just be two things. So you keep the head-to-head lobby and then add the Zoom poker, just like poker.
I think it's a great idea. I'd be more inclined to play that than – look at the heads up lobby all day and wait for somebody.
DraftKings steals my ideas and doesn't give me credit. So like maybe they'll take that one too.
What did they steal from you?
Which I've given to them.
Which idea did they steal from you before?
This World Championships.
That's another interesting way I don't really understand.
Yeah, neither do I. Actually, I was just too frustrated to look at it. I'm like, these fucking assholes didn't invite me.
We were talking about that back in March. Brian had this idea, and we were trying to set it up for when League of Legends was kind of like the only show in town there. And you were legitimately talking to the DraftKings people about this idea.
Yeah, they had a board meeting, he told me. He's like, oh, we're not going to do it today, but we'll do it soon.
And then they announce it all with all of the names, and it doesn't even include Brian. Like, what kind of bullshit?
Not only that, they didn't even ask me.
That's pretty rough. That's tough for you. Which area would you be? You East guy or West guy?
My idea was city championships. So you do like Chicago, Miami. But you be generous with the area, or Illinois by state.
Sure.
Or if you want to go northeast, southeast, whatever. You get the idea. Yeah. And then you take by invite 5 guys, and then play whatever, and then do it the same way. I don't know exactly how they're doing. I didn't read too deeply into it, but then you just rank them based on how they did, and then Chicago wins or whatever.
Are you a Chicago guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so Chicago and San Diego are, I think, the two bigger DFS cities now. I used to be a Chicago guy myself.
Where are you now?
San Diego.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, not intentional, not because of me that the city's the great. I don't know if it came off that way. But I know EM2 lives here now, so that'd be my teammate. TJ's here, Schlong's here. We'd have a pretty good squad in San Diego. I like the state idea, though. I think states would be awesome.
What are you going to do when Schlong and EM2 have to make two different lineups in the World Challenge?
I think that's our problem as Team San Diego. We're gonna have to take
one team. They'll just be one player, EM2/Schlong.
That would be kind of awkward, but I like that idea a lot.
Me, that kind of challenge of like a collective GPP where it's like we all get mad at the bachelorette couple or people, working around, max entry requirements to get 300 lineups. That would actually be fun. Above board group tournament strategy to see how you leverage a portfolio across more lineups with a group of people. Like, to me, that's interesting.
Man, but like, what would you talk to the EM2 about? He just one lineup. He's playing for 15 guys every week.
He wouldn't do well in that contest.
We're nukes. He's not making the team.
You look over his shoulder. He's got like Awesemo.com up. He's like hiding it.
I think he's a Roto-Grinders guy. Rumblings, I think he's a Blitz bat guy, which is funny because I think he makes fun of Cardi a lot. I think he's a bat guy, though.
We all hate in others what we hate the most in ourselves, I believe is how that works.
What if they got some guy who makes projections for him or something?
He's got the money to do it. It could be Cardi on the side. Maybe Cardi's got a bat 2.0 for him.
He has an EM dupe system he runs.
I like. Again, they have all the money in the world, but I feel like it's weird. He plays DFS so aggressively money wise, but I feel like I don't think he cares that much about it. I think he's just got way too much money.
Yeah. Well, like even so, I watch Andrew Wiggins stuff at ETR, and he does his high stakes review stuff, and he's looking like he pulls it up on his spreadsheet. He's looking at optimals across the industry, and he's making his decisions based on those optimals. Maybe I'm wrong. I just did a show with him. I don't think Andrew Wiggins is doing his own modeling. He's looking at other stuff and making his decisions based on other people's models. And I think even for these high stakes guys, for the most part, are doing that same thing. I do really think you're an anomaly, Brian.
I know other guys who make their own.
Of course, but I'm just saying, I think that's in the small minority.
Yeah, now you guys are convincing me.
Yeah, I think there's a decent correlation between guys who rely on the projections and aggregate whatnot and people who are still around several years later. Because, aggregating was the shit back in 2015. You do a Basketball Monster, you don't even have to aggregate. You put basketballmonster.com in, you print. But now I know it's a lot of guys who are aggregating are struggling now.
Interesting.
Yeah. Pete, I don't know if you played DFS. Did you play DFS back in 15?
No, I'm pretty new. I was like a shit ass DFS player until I started talking with Brian about 6 months ago. So
you screwed up. You missed the golden times.
I know, but I do remember Basketball Monster. I would use Basketball Monster for my season-long fantasy basketball leagues because they had you would do a live draft, and based on your picks, it would auto-adjust for the categories you could dominate. And I would just crush people over and over using Basketball Monster projections. It
was so ahead of its time. I only knew of it because, again, I played a Dynasty League. My partner was actually A.E. Jones. It was a poker player league. And he told me about the website, and it blew my mind.
It was so good. Matt Buser and Justin Fan, who is now at Action Network, their shit was so good.
I emailed the owner of that back in the day. I've been a subscriber like their whole time. Talking about, I'm like, dude, your minutes are off because they don't sum to 240. And he's like, oh shit, this is like right when he first started. I do aggregate minutes. Like I don't make my own minutes projection. Steve Buzzard makes his own minute projection. I'm like, dude, get a fucking life.
NBA is all about minutes though. That's like I think the best thing that you can do intuitively.
Yeah, okay. You could aggregate them and then RBX 88 adjust them, but you don't need to like go from scratch on them.
I think there's a little bit of edge going. I mean, I personally do most of them from scratch. I don't do all of them. Again, if there's 12 games, I'm not sitting on my computer all day doing 12 games of stuff. But I do a decent amount of minutes from scratch, and sometimes it'll look really stupid. Sometimes I get it right.
Okay.
I mean, it's a tough defense is tough. You have to find any little edge you possibly can. And so
have you checked your results on minute correlation?
No, I am horrible with computers, so I don't do the back testing stuff that I'm sure you do. I can't code for shit personally.
Yeah, I can't code either, but
Travis, have you been sitting in the Thunderdome in NFL lately?
I just started last week. I've been doing good in NFL this season, so I was like, maybe I'm a Thunderdome guy. I got my ass completely kicked.
What is your thought like on this contest? I think what's so compelling to me is this idea of Awesemo playing it from a tournament mindset in EM2 jamming like a near cash optimal. How do you think that plays out?
It's actually really interesting because I know football is bigger. I don't know what the MMA Thunderdome and I don't remember the third sport. Is it golf?
PGA, yeah.
PGA. I don't really know how the PGA Thunderdome plays or the MMA, but for football, it's going to be close because again, EM2 is very, very solid, right? And Alex's strength is the really big field, was my understanding. I don't know if he plays as many small fields. I don't think he plays the NBA Thunderdome. That's really the only Thunderdome I play regularly. So I think it's going to be pretty close. If I had to side on one person more than the other with 10 games, I'd probably take EM2. But I think Alex would win more money. If they played this hard times, I think Alex would win more than EM2, but I think EM2 would win more often than Alex. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Right. He has a higher floor. Awesemo is going to be looking for that higher ceiling, but that's going to take longer to realize.
So you kind of already answered this question, but the only difference between a cash game and the Thunderdome is the payout structure, right? So do you think if the DFS gods could come down and tell us, would it theoretically be a different lineup than your cash optimal? And let's say a 15-man Thunderdome, or would just be the cash optimal win all the monies?
I mean, optimally, I think you go a little different. You got to change up a little bit. Even if it's one or two guys, I mean, just put the optimal out there and just switch out two guys, and I think you're doing a lot better all of a sudden.
I think that's a no-brainer. I think that's definitely right. And you'll see, as soon as someone dupes, you're dead. You're dead. You can't make that money back up.
I mean, there's a contest on FanDuel called the Beast. It's a 5K winner take all event, and people dupe it all the time. Yeah, it's horrible.
Do you play MMA?
I have. I don't do it well, so I quit because I think it's not a good DFS sport, at least for me. It's one of the things. If I suck at a sport, it's the worst sport ever. I don't understand why people play it.
So Petty, I just pulled this up for Sunday here. You're sitting here with Empire and Awesemo.
I'm going to change history. I'm going to take that first from those guys. I'm gonna give it another try.
Do you think because what's curious, I assume Empire Maker doesn't change his strategy whatsoever, right? He just keeps doing what he's doing.
Oh yeah, he's not gonna change for anything.
No, and Awesemo though, I feel like Awesemo would be a little more flexible in his strategy depending on where he's at in the contest.
Oh, 100%. When I used to play heads up versus Empire Maker, he'd be losing and it'd be obviously the same guy. He wouldn't change it.
You know what you should do here? So wait till EM Duke raises his points up to whatever plus 110, which he probably will, and then bet him in this. And because the VIG's 5.5, you're going to be getting 5% free on Alex, and you got yourself your VIG free plus a little extra.
I mean, that'd be the smart thing to do. The not smart thing to do is play. I guess. I mean, I don't know if I'm plus even this Thunderdome. I've just been doing well personally. And it's kind of like you said, I have a very GPP mindset, and this might be more Thunderdome with 30 people might be more of a cash heavy way to go. And I don't really think that way. So,
but isn't that aren't you just describing what the edge is? If everyone is cash heavy and everyone's playing within these, I don't know, what is it? 40 to 60 percentile outcomes. And you can either finish in a 20 or 80 percentile outcome. Aren't those the barbells you want to be living in?
Yes, but I don't feel like a donk saying this, but the chalk is so strong. These optimal sites that people are playing off of, they're very, very strong. I haven't ran the math. I don't know how to do the math to figure out at what point, again, Kyle, what we were talking about earlier, is the optimal not optimal to play. I know that the very optimal is not optimal, right? If there's 2 or 3 guys on it, it's horrible. But I don't know how far you're supposed to go off that.
Yeah.
I don't tweak my lineups. Whatever my projections throw up, I put it in.
You could sim it out.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, you sim it out, and so like what I found is in cash games, the optimal is the optimal. So like if there's a 50-50 type of cash game, doesn't matter if there's 150 people in there or whatever. It doesn't matter like the standard deviation isn't huge, right? And so like people kind of like have that narrative, and it really just looks like the optimals. It's just a no-brainer. Just play the optimal in cash.
How about this? I have a question for you both. What do you think you should get more unique in? A 3-man with another well-known chalky regular, or say like a 30-man Thunderdome? What would you be more likely to change? So obviously not to play the optimal. Which lineup would you go more different on?
You have to go different than 3-man, because if you dupe, you die.
So you say the 3-man. What's a 5-man? And now I'm going to take all 5-man.
Okay. And okay, so 5-man versus the 3-man, or 5-man versus
5 versus Thunderdome then.
5 versus the Thunderdome. Yeah, I would say the Thunderdome would have more players. You want to be more unique. But I don't think you have to get crazy in any of this stuff. So like here's what I would say is it would probably be like a probability distribution. So like let's say it's a 25-man Thunderdome versus the 5-man. 40% of the time, or like 70% of the time, it's gonna be the same lineup. 30% of the time, it's not, something like that. Or maybe like you think of it like 30% of the time, it's gonna be the same. 30% of the time, it's gonna be different, and 30% of the time, or 33 on each of these, it's gonna be something a little crazy, something like that. And it would be slate dependent. That would be my guess. I don't know, because I play big field GPPs mainly, so I don't put in the work to do these small fields.
To me, it just makes so much intuitive sense. If so much of the field is going to have lineups in the same range and they're playing 1v1s, 2v2s against each other, that you not playing that same block of players to where you're either going to eat shit against the optimal or you're going to lap the optimal. It's the same thing. Like we've heard Blender say, like, you're going to win. The contrarian players are going to win on the slates that are low scoring, where you need 250 points to win instead of 300. Like, wouldn't you just want to play that game with the optimal?
It matters how many guys are in the contest, right? And I know in the NBA Thunderdome, I play pretty different than the optimal, but it's only 8 to 10 man events, and NBA is a little more consistent. But my ROI this season was like minuscule. It was like 1%, 0%. So I'm not trading rake, but I'm pretty close to doing that in the NBA at least. And that's my experience with Thunderdomes. And again, I don't play chalky at all for the most part.
Yeah.
I don't know. When chalk smacks you like 3-4 weeks in a row in NFL, it's hard. It's really hard.
When Henry busted that one, I was like, ruined my fucking NFL Red Zone Sunday right there.
Oh, I was loving it. I was having a great time.
I think that's good. I think I saw you had a bunch of them.
I liked it.
Yeah, it's just hard for me. Like you guys are infinitely smarter than me, but I'm thinking like, okay, a 50 percentile outcome in the Thunderdome, you still make zero money. You finish 15th place. You make zero money. And everyone's playing roughly the same lineup, and all of the money is in the top 7 spots. Like, it's just screaming to me to be pretty different from the field.
It makes too much sense.
I think we're at the point in like DFS's trajectory, like as far as where the edges are, that this is exactly what people should be looking at. We should probably not even talk about it. Is like these 3-mans, these smaller edges, and kind of specializing within the specialization. You know what I mean? So like you just know how to play 5-mans, 3-mans, 10-mans. Like I think because before it's cash game or GPP specialization, and then maybe you play all the sports, maybe you play a couple of them. I think we're just going to have to get more and more specialized. And I mean, I still think, like, I don't know, Petty, what do you think about this? Like, because in poker, I always regretted only really being good at no limit. So like, I was pretty good at PLO, like, but not great. Like, I don't know, maybe I could have played it a little bit longer or practiced a little harder, but I always regretted not being good at 8-man player. You know what I mean? And so when DFS happened, I'm like, I'm going to be able to play every fucking sport. I'm going to make projections for every sport. I'm not going to screw this up again. But I don't know if it matters the same as poker. I don't think it matters as much.
I don't think it does either. And the issue again is you're potentially spreading yourself too thin with playing too many sports. I mean, I don't know if I'd call myself a specialist. Maybe I am, because NBA, actually probably am. NBA is by far my best sport. It laps the other one. So I guess in that regard, I am a specialist. I specialize in one sport more than the others. I understand it more than the others. And it's worked for me. I think you can go both ways. I don't think there's a correct way, to be honest with you. Poker's different.
So another part of this that I want to so conceptually, in the same way, the reason people also love to gravitate towards stacking is it eliminates decision making. And one thing that I think might be happening at these higher stakes, I know too, I literally have DM'd DraftKings and I said, in my CSV export, can I get an entry size column there so I can see when I'm bringing lineups over how big this contest size in there? Because I want to specifically tailor, my chalkier cumulative ownership lineups to smaller fields. I'm wondering if some of these guys at the high stakes they're just eliminating decision-making by putting every lineup in every contest. They're not tailoring the lineup to the contest size, because that's a lot of extra fucking work.
Are you talking to me right now, Peter?
Am I talking to you?
Are you adding me right now? Is that exactly
I think
what
I'm
I do?
adding you. It seems like that's maybe where the edge is that the guys aren't tailoring their lineup to the contest size, because it's an extra piece of fucking work.
Yeah, I mean, you just literally said what I do.
Do you play the same lineup in the Thunderdome as you do in cash?
No, my GP and my cash are different, but I stick my Thunderdome is my lineup one on my projections, and then
Peter's saying every entry with 25 or less players in, they just run their cash lineup. Yeah,
so I mean, I don't play cash at all, right? But if I guess it's not too dissimilar. It's my number one GP lineup, my Thunderdome lineup, which is also going to go into everything else.
Gotcha. And that's what I do.
Yeah. And I only run 150 lineups for every sport. And my first 20 will go into all my high stakes or whatever, and those will also go into my low stakes, and so I'll be very heavy into my top stuff.
Right. Yeah.
I don't play for field.
Sweating, you're like, okay, this lineup's winning, but it's 127. I don't care. I want the top 20 to be winning.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, trust me. I do the exact same thing.
Which means I'm probably playing too chalky at the top, but it's just how I've always been. I know it's not correct. I just said, Peter, you should be tailoring to what your events are. I probably play the Million Maker too chalky, and I might play the Thunderdome too aggressive, too contrarian. But it's worked for me, so I keep it.
And I mean, isn't too when you think about it, especially with NFL, we have a lot of news that'll come in at inactives. I don't MME main slate NFL. I mean, that seems exhausting. The amount of things you have to do within that 90 minutes. And then on top of that, you're having to adjust for different levels of contest sizing. I don't even know if there's enough time to actually do that properly.
You just aggregate the projections.
That's what most people will. And I think somebody said, I think Brian, you're talking about specialization. People aren't going to change their strategy. They're going to aggregate. How can they change the strategy and specialize and stuff? They're going to do what they know. They don't know how to make their own projections and whatnot. They don't know how to change their lineups up.
That's my point. Is I think that's where the edge is going to come for a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, and not to mention it's really hard for newer people to get in the game now. Peter, it's hard right now. The rate's high. The players are super good. Yeah. I can't imagine surviving in the current landscape and making enough money to move up.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I actually saw Blender talking about this today, this idea of playing, so I feel like I fall in this weird bucket where I want to play as sharp as possible. I want to learn. I want to get better. I want to move up, but I play for fucking fun. I want to be good at it, but I'm not playing to make a living. I'm not playing if I lose my role, playing smartly, I'm okay with that versus the type of players that who are playing, like you guys to make a living. And then there's also the players who are just punting it off, making lineups on their phone in the Millie Maker. There's a wide swath of how people approach this.
Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing as, I feel being professional and having fun most of the time. It's stressful. It sucks a lot of the time. I was in a chat and people were showing their biggest downswings, and I looked at my rotor tracker. I mean, you remember times like that. I remember that it was a 2-month stretch where I just kept getting my ass kicked over and over. It's not fun. To me now, it's only really, really fun when I win a solid amount, which against GV player, as you guys understand, it's not very often. And I can always find something to complain about too. It's very easy.
Oh yeah.
Every slate.
Yeah. Most DFS players are complainers too. I've found.
It's contagious.
What do you think? What do you think's more stressful, poker or DFS?
Poker's a long time ago.
I know.
I feel like DFS.
I think poker.
I was younger then, though. I was only 21 back then, and my life was simple.
For me, it was just the competitive stuff is just so in your face.
And you're playing the same people over and over. It's 1-on-1.
So like it would just get to me like, fuck, I didn't just lose. I lost to that fucking guy again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It happens to DFS too. Like somebody posts a screenshot and it's just like, fuck that guy.
No, I hated every single player. Hated everyone I played against.
Here's a question. Did you guys, first of all, were you playing on FanDuel on the first week where they had the scoring outages, and were you hitting up your reps for refunds on the big volume you were playing?
I asked my rep before the second game, like, what's going on, what's going to happen, whatnot. And they didn't get back to me until after the slate was over. I just asked, like, what's going to be the resolution here? And they resolved it.
Oh, wow. You're saying you got something a little extra?
No, I didn't say that.
No, but that's what you implied. All right, someone tweet this out. At FanDuel for me, too.
I might have to tweet it myself. If you guys didn't get a 20,000, no, I didn't get 20. But it was a weird situation, to be honest. I know people who said they would have won a tournament if they were allowed to swap. And what they told me made a lot of sense. So people like that absolutely should get a big refund, in my opinion.
Oh, everyone should get a refund.
Well, that's the whole thing is
the lineups.
But you should get more than 100, Brian. Like, Brian, I don't know how much you play, but you should definitely get more than $100 refund.
Yeah, I didn't even ask. I don't play much on FanDuel. I play more on DraftKings, but I guess I should have. I barely ever fuck with them. Like, remember those two League of Legends slates they fucked me on, Peter?
What was that story again?
What happened?
They was telling me like you should sue them, right? Well, the game was postponed, but then they played it the next day. But in every other sport, they never done that. They totally just said, fuck it. There's no other sports going on. We don't want to suspend it. We'll just wait till tomorrow. But they don't do that for any other sports. Remember, we had a whole episode on this.
I vaguely remember you having issues with a certain slate. I don't remember what happened. I mean, I know the basics again. A game got moved. Was it because of internet or something?
Their internet was bad, so they postponed it. And like whenever a game gets postponed for whatever reason, they end the slate. They've done that historically, and they didn't on this one because they were probably losing money hand over fist because it was beginning of COVID, and so they weren't making any money. And they're like, oh, let's just play this out. And then they did it like the next week. It wasn't League of Legends. It was the other one, Counter-Strike. And then the same fucking thing. They screwed me again.
Speaking of League of Legends, is that not the best DFS sport? Like low key.
The guy who won the League of Legends online championships.
That was what I was segueing into that. By the way, I just wanted you to say something about that. No, I think that's the best DFS sport. It's a really fun sport to watch.
Yeah, we agree. we played. We did like all our shows in the beginning of this on League of Legends. It was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be, and the strategy is pretty fun too. And it just got just slowed down after everyone. There's no point in playing it. I mean, I haven't even looked. I don't know if they're worth it at all. I doubt it.
I think they have like the big stuff. It's okay. I mean, it depends what kind of player you are, right? And then the 11 p.m. stuff or midnight Pacific time. That's just too late for me. I can't stay up for that anymore.
Right. That was a big pain in the ass. The Korean leagues when we did the 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock locks. Like, oh, it probably wasn't that bad for you. Like if the 2 o'clock would be midnight for you, like that's not the end of the world.
It's better, but then I'd find myself playing League of Legends with friends leading up to the lock, and I just be super League of Legends with watching like 4 hours or playing 4 hours straight. It got to be too much.
I know. And when they wouldn't have the American announcers, it's like, God damn it! I wish they had the American announcers.
I will say, I will forever in my life hold a nostalgic soft spot for that period during quarantine where I would get up at 8 a.m. to sweat my League of Legends lineups, turning on the games there. Like, that was so damn fun. And it existed for about a month where I enjoyed it before everyone realized you just got to jam 4-3 stacks. Those few weeks were just glorious.
I mean, that's another problem. The stacking it's too simple, right? In League of Legends. But the first week or two, I remember the Corona Poker Club was like the Thunderdome, basically. Everybody who's in like the 6 or 8 man Thunderdome was. Oh, I remember. I think I messaged you, Brick, to play with us because we need more people.
Yeah, I played some with you.
Yeah. So, and everybody thought that team captain, going team as a captain was like the play.
Not me.
Well, and you probably mopped up. I got smoked playing that. But that turned real quickly.
No, I mean, I think in the earlier ones, I was losing to the team captain. The team captain lineups were winning. I'm like, this is fucking so stupid.
That's tough. That's a horrible way to go down.
EM2 had team and captain for like a week straight.
It might have been good for you though, because like again, it made people think maybe team captain's good for a little longer than maybe they should have. Hopefully, you got the money back.
It didn't last that long.
It probably was a couple weeks,
maybe 2. Like, and then they figured it out.
Yeah, I think I remember talking to J-Mac about it. J-Mac was like my first tout for League of Legends, and he was.
You were in the war room?
I wasn't in the war room. That was in the Corona Poker Club before I got booted out of that.
Oh, I also, by the way, so real quick, Kirk and these guys are saying, because they don't know how Discord works, I'm in like 8 different Discords, so it shows that I'm active in a Discord. I got an invite like 9 months ago, and then they're claiming that I've been sitting in the Corona Poker Club Discord all this time, not realizing that if you're in any single Discord, you're live. I haven't been watching what you guys are saying. I'm sure you guys are having lots of fun times in the Corona Poker Disc Club. I'm sorry. Anyways, go ahead, Travis.
No, there's some funny guys in there.
Yeah,
there's been some good memes out of there too. But I think they play poker again. Maybe you can play a little bit, Brian, and before they boot you out.
I'd rather shoot myself in the play. Nothing against those guys, just like poker, man. I was like, once 2011 happened, Black Friday, I was like, fuck this. Well, actually, no, I spent 6 months at Merge or whatever the one everyone went to.
Yeah.
And afterwards, maybe a little more than 6 months. Merge and Cake, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Cake,
Cake, remember Cake went under too, I think.
Yeah, I think it went under without people getting their money, right?
Yeah, I think I got screwed on there too. It's happened a bunch of times, but yeah, after I think I don't maybe a year, and then I was like, that's it, I'm done with this. Fuck this. No,
I was similar. I was so burnt out off poker. I was happy when it happened. I was like, oh, I'll come back in 3 months. I'll be refreshed. I'll be back and crushing it. And that did not happen.
That's exactly what I thought. And also, I was like, fuck these other guys because I hated them so much. So like someone mentioned here in chat, I lost it, but it was he said that Awesemo ran a sim in a cash game where he had one like an Enos Cantor type of player who has like this high standard deviation, and he was beating some guy because he would pick the player with the higher standard deviation. And so like what I found, and I said this earlier, is like in like football or a sport with a bunch of players, I don't think that matters as much because there's just too many players. But the example why you're for sure it matters is what we just said, League of Legends. So the reason that the team and captain's so shitty is because they're not going to go off for 120 points or something like that. So like although their projection might optimally fit in there from the optimizer, they're never going to have that ceiling that you would need. So like it does matter, but I think you need to be careful when you're thinking about it that way.
Yep.
All right, guys. I hate to shut this down. I got another stream I got to do here in 5 minutes. But Brian, I think we got to get Travis back on for a future stream. Talk more. I think he fits into the Lolz universe perfectly.
Yeah, we'll see how that. Maybe he'll get that EM2 challenge going.
Yeah, we'll see. Are you going to the poker stream again? Am I the RG poker stream? Can I make a
talk about a throwback, man? That makes me feel so old. RG poker streams and League of Legends DFS. It feels like a million years ago.
Peter, I just remember you again. I never spoke to you before. I remember after I ranted at Kirk for a while, you're just like, you know what? I think you said what you need to say. I think it's time to go. I'm like, you know what? I said way too much already. It's time to go.
I know. I like you. I was on that stream. Just I think that stream ended with Tommy G coming on coked out at the end of it. If you want to know how wild that stream was,
I forgot about Tommy G. What's he up to?
He's on Parlor. I think speaking the truth
podcast. I listen to it. I get through about like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's actually pretty fucking interesting. Just like as like science experiment. You know what I mean? Like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Just give it a shot for 20 minutes.
It's pretty simple, Brian. Drugs are not good for you.
All right, guys. Thank you, Travis, for popping on. Thank you to Awesemo earlier for coming on. I'm sure we will continue to track this challenge, talk high stakes DFS strat. For Brian Hooper, for Petty Theft, I'm Peter Overzet. We'll see you guys next time. You can subscribe to this on iTunes, subscribe to Brian's YouTube channel. Peace.